and Wine and Spirits Division President Robert Hansen. Good to see you both here. Robert, let me start with you. Why'd you make this acquisition? This is a somewhat different business model than I have come to know from Constellation Brands, a direct-to-consumer business.
Thanks for having us, Brian. Two reasons, really. Gary and his partners, John and Nate, created a digital native brand in the wine category, which in itself is very distinctive, but it's a really distinctive brand. It's the name Empathy. It's very consumer focused. They farm sustainably, farm to bottle, and they bring the brand to market strictly in a DTC model. And that's combining incredible science, consumer-based data with the art of brand building. And they do so in a really agile, innovative, and fast way. So we're excited to partner with Gary and his team to build Empathy. It's a high growth brand. They've done 15,000 cases in the first year of its life. So we think we can scale it in partnership. But at the same time, the model that they built the brand upon, which is a digital native model, they use Shopify Plus as their tech stack. They have a very advanced way of engaging consumers. It's about consumer first, combining the art and science of brand building, applying that to our high-end wine portfolio, brands like Robert Mondavi, Simi, the Prisoner Wine Company, Schrader, Kovan Vineyard Company. It's a win-win in this partnership. I'm really, really excited to grow our DTC business in partnership with Empathy.
Gary, let me get over to you. This is a unique model. Is this a look into the future, you think, on how wine and beer might be consumed?
Yes. And obviously the dramatic pause there, Brian. First, thanks for having us on. Yeah, I mean, if there's anybody who's confused that the consumer likes convenience, they've not been paying attention to the last 100 years of business. And direct to consumer, delivered to doorstep is going to work for a lot of people. And obviously, I don't have to mention to everybody who's watching, COVID has accelerated the knowledge of that capability within Bev-Alc, because I think a lot of people didn't understand the liquor laws and how many places a winery can ship to. And it's accelerated a lot of people's behavior that they just don't want to go and spend those 15 or 30 minutes on that execution. They want to go this route.
Robert, I understand why you would want to partner with Gary's company, but Gary, I want to understand better why you wanted to partner with Constellation Brands. There's a lot of other players in the space, but why was this partnership with Constellation the right one?
It's funny. I'm an immigrant born in the former Soviet Union. I grew up in an immigrant business with my dad. I'm a very people-oriented person. I met Robert 7 years ago when he was in a different company, and it just clicked because in corporate America, Madison Avenue, a lot of the Fortune 5,000 companies are just completely tone deaf to the reality of the end consumer right now. And that always stuck with me as our careers evolved. We kept in touch here and there. And really it was the first couple meetings where I understood not only could we make a dramatically better wine in Empathy. And our goal is to absolutely make the best $20 wine in the world because of Constellation's remarkable vineyards, grapes, and winemakers. But B, I was going to have a partner and an executive and a teammate to make sure that the Robert Mondavis, the Simis, on and on, Schraders of the world were going to be contemporized. And so it was chemistry of the human. And honestly, we really want to make the greatest $20 bottle of wine, and they are much more capable from a grape and winemaking standpoint than the little 18-month start we had, and that excites me to no end.
Gary, Robert. Oh, yes.
If I could just jump in for a second, building on Gary's point, 90% of wine sales in DTC are $20 a bottle and higher. And this plays very much into our strategy of premiumizing. We're focused on the high end. We're focused on digital commerce, and we're focused on sustainability. So the brand was perfect. But as Gary mentions, the mashup is critical in its context, right? So Gary's a founder and entrepreneur. The company has a 75-year history from Marvin, Richard, and Rob Sands of making very innovative, agile M&A plays. And the combination of that mindset, we think, applied to our whole wine portfolio is really going to make a big difference to our ability to grow our DTC channel. And frankly, the final point that's so critical is we'll be smarter because we'll be focused on the consumer first. And by having that focus on the consumer, we'll become a better partner to our distributors and wholesalers because we'll know what the consumer is looking for well ahead of the competition to be able to bring more relevant innovation to the market and be a better partner to grow our total omni-channel sales.
And Robert, Gary, Ines here. Off of that point, what is the consumer looking for? What have you seen as far as trends during COVID-19, and what are you looking out for in the next 3, 6, 12 months?
Yeah, and that is great question. I think we're focused on 5 things from an innovation standpoint that have played out quite significantly during COVID-19, but there was one that was actually playing out well before that, and that's when Gary and I started having a conversation. I think, Gary, over around 9 months ago, we started talking about this potential partnership, which is DTC. Only a third of consumers knew that you could buy wine online pre-COVID. Now, I think that number is 80 to 90%. So we were well in discussions before COVID-19 hit because the DTC market's growing at twice the rate of the total wine market. But that combined with a focus on ready to drink and convenience, consumers want things on their terms, and we're building our innovation pipeline to serve that, focusing on DTC, but also on the betterment trend. People are buying higher quality product and consuming it as a reward, especially during COVID-19. And then finally, sustainability, which obviously is at the core of the Empathy brand too. The one big question in wine is what's going to replace the very big red blend or Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa. All of our winemakers are focused on having the answer to that question as well.
I think the number one, just for 5 seconds, the number one focus, and will continue to be the focus, is how do you make the most delicious wine? Wine is overly complicated because of its nature, and the American and global consumer actually likes it to taste good. And the reason Empathy was positioned as a red, white, and rosé is we want the flexibility every year to be able to focus on the grapes that most perform that year. This is a farming product, and we want to be able to blend it any way we want so that it's delicious.
Gary, you mentioned a lot of Fortune 500 companies are in fact tone deaf. Speaking of tone deaf, Facebook, this brand, your brand, has been built on strong social media. You are a huge presence on Facebook, on Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. You're a huge presence on Twitter. Are you still willing to market your Empathy brand on these platforms, given how they've dealt with the situation regarding inequality in America?
So, obviously in this scenario, I've got to follow the consolation framework. And so I go through that in that part of my world. But separately, as Gary Vaynerchuk, the CEO of VaynerMedia, the answer is we need to really look at the conversation at hand. I had over 75 conversations with CMOs and CEOs about this over the last 2 weeks, and I asked them what they would like Facebook to change, and not one was able to actually articulate what they were mad about other than following the headlines. And when you look at what people are mad about, I think Pinterest and Tumblr and Squarespace and WordPress and Google and Apple and Microsoft are going to have some conversation as well. So I think we've got to really take a step back and be thoughtful about the conversation. And from my standpoint, how much of this is a Madison Avenue ecosystem conversation versus the reality of what consumers expect from their brands.
And Brian, let's jump in.
I want to ask Robert, are you committed to these social media platforms and keeping that presence there for Empathy Wine?
Yeah, Brian, we really appreciate you asking the question. We have to start with the fact that we just categorically denounce racism, bigotry, any incendiary language that leads to violence and social injustice against the Black and African American community, but any underrepresented group. It's one of the reasons we're investing $100 million over the next 10 years for Black and minority-owned entrepreneurs to be able to develop their businesses in BevAlc. We've made $1 million donation to the Equal Justice Initiative to help their agenda and to educate our own employees. We're working hard to improve our processes with our business resource groups and hiring and education and development for our Black and African American employees. But most importantly, I think at the moment, Gary's right, we have to look at the entire ecosystem of our communications, but we've made the decision to stand down from paid advertising on Facebook and their platforms as we evaluate that. And it's important that we stand on the right side of history. We think business should be a source of economic opportunity, but frankly, a force for positive social change. And we'll evaluate all our policies to make sure we're on the right side of history in this issue and others.
Robert,
Brian, real quick, I apologize.
Quick follow-up. How long do you plan to be off of social media? Is there a timeline?
We've made the commitment for the month of July and continue to reevaluate as the situation develops.
Okay.
Brian,
last word, Gary.
Last word, Brian, people are concerned about their ads showing up next to hate content. If I go to Yahoo right now or Google right now and search hate content, there's unlimited ads surrounding it. This needs to be a much more thoughtful conversation. We need to recognize that truth.
All right, let's leave it there, guys. Gary Vaynerchuk, Robert Hansen, congrats on this deal, and good luck on the path forward.
Thank you so much.